to the Everything Made Beautiful podcast with Shannon Scott, where we explore how God's faithfulness meets us in every season of life. This podcast is sponsored by Kava, the streaming app designed to close the gap between Sundays by providing transformational content that deepens your personal discipleship journey. Whether you're seeking inspiring messages, guided reflections, or practical resources, Kava meets you where you are and helps you take the next step in following Jesus. Search Kava, Q-A-V-A, download the app, and discover tools to grow in faith every day of the week. If you've been encouraged by Everything Made Beautiful, we'd love for you to share the love. Take a moment to like, download, rate, and subscribe wherever you're listening. Your support helps us so much. And now, on with the show.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Everything Made Beautiful podcast. And I am super excited that today is the first Monday of March. And in this Monday, we are trying something new on the podcast. Several weeks ago, I asked my daughters, Maggie and Ali, if they would be willing to start appearing regularly on the podcast as some co-hosts for me. Sometimes it might only be one of them. Sometimes it'll be both of them. And I just said I was tired of hearing my own voice all the time. And I enjoyed the opportunities to get to talk to guests, but also I wanted to just be able to talk about things with other people. And so they both said yes, and then had some fun ideas of their own. And so one of their ideas was that maybe about once a month-ish, they would also pick a surprise guest. Is that right, girls? And so
Yes.
Somebody I know, but I don't know before we get on the podcast who it's going to be, so that the conversation is super organic. So we're just going to try some fun things. I'm still going to interview awesome guests, like has always been a hallmark of this podcast. And we've got several of those interviews lined up, and I'm so excited about them. But you're going to get to know a little bit more of the two favorite girls in my life, which are my own girls, Maggie and Ali. So, girls, welcome to the podcast. And I'm going to turn it right over to you because that whole thing about me not wanting to hear my own voice all the time starts now. So can each of you can go in whichever order you want. Can you just share a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you're up to now in life, and why you said yes to doing this?
Of course. Well, I'm the oldest, so I'll go first. I currently live in Florida. I'm currently an event producer, coordinator, planner for some resorts at Walt Disney World. I have been working here for 3 years. I just hit my 3 years in January, which is wild to think about. Wild. But this is my most recent role, and I'm having an absolute blast. I am 22. I'm going to turn 23 in March this month, on the 25th. Woohoo! And I'm super excited about that. I've got my dog. Her name is Oakley. She's just the best thing ever in the entire world. She's sleeping right over there, like the good little princess that she is. And I'm just having a blast in this like early season of adulthood. It's been really challenging, but it's also been really fun. And I'm super expectant for what's coming next.
Yeah, love it. Why did you say yes to doing this?
I have wanted for a little bit to be more involved in what was going on with the podcast. I wasn't totally sure where I was going to fit in there because some of you may or may not know Miss Ali over here does a lot of our social media, and
Yes.
I got super jealous like sisters do and was like, wait, I want to be involved too. I want to have a job. And you were like, well, what if we started co-hosting? And I was like, that sounds like my dream. I love talking more than anything else. So yes, of course, anytime. So I
love it.
Just texted a couple of my friends and was like, we're recording a podcast. And they were like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So it's been so exciting. I'm so glad it's finally happening. And I can't wait for what's coming up.
Yes.
So my name is Ali. I'm the youngest. I am currently a senior in high school. Yay. I will be finishing my senior year at the end of May 24th. And I'm looking into going into cosmetology school, and I'm wanting to do hair for a living. I work at a cute little ice cream shop, and, still living at home, obviously, because why would I move out?
Don't do it. It's a trap. It's a trap, truly.
Yeah, I really am not wanting to do that anytime soon. So, anyways, yeah, we're just kind of living life, being a teenager and soaking up every last minute, but also ready to be done. So, yeah, that's kind of how life has been. And yeah.
Okay, so what is something that people might be surprised to know about you? Like, each of you just pick one thing that people might assume a lot of stuff, but what is something people would be surprised to know?
I don't know if people would necessarily be surprised to know this, but it might be something for people who don't know me. It might make them go, wait, what? My lifelong dream is to free dive with sharks. Lifelong dream. I cannot,
Girl loves
I cannot
some
wait.
sharks.
My lifelong dream is to swim with sharks. And I feel like when I tell people that, they're always kind of like, you're crazy. So if you know me, you wouldn't be shocked to find that out. But if you don't know me, that is absolutely 100% my dream. And I cannot wait to do it.
Mm-hmm. Ali?
I would say one thing that people would be surprised to know about me. My close friends know this, but I feel like other people do not. I used to be, and am now getting back into it, a very avid reader. I love reading. I could sit down and finish a whole book, like if I really set my mind to it. I love reading, specifically the Karen Kingsbury books. They're so
my
good.
gosh. Yeah.
Like, when I tell you, I started in, I think, 6th grade with the Baxter Family series and read, I think, 20 or 30 books by the time I was in 8th grade. And now I'm rereading them, and they're so good. Definitely recommend.
Yep. That's good. Okay, those were good answers. I wasn't sure what you were going to say because I haven't heard any of your answers to what I might ask you. Okay, so because we are absolutely not doing this because we are too precious for ourselves and we think that we are amazing and we don't do anything weird and we have no problems in our family. Let's just
Right,
get
of
this out of the
course.
way. What is something that I do that secretly or not so secretly you think is cringeworthy or funny? You can pick either one or both. Like if you're just like, I'm about to read mom's mail right here on this podcast.
Oh, I have mine.
Because she is not, mom is
She's
not
prepared.
too precious for this. Okay,
I
what
have
is it?
mine. This is always in jest, but Allie is going to know exactly what I'm talking about as soon as I start
scared.
describing this. If someone is walking incredibly slow,
Oh my
Shannon?
gosh.
Shannon Scott will turn to whoever she's with and be like, I remember the first time I took my first step. Like,
Or just walk anywhere.
can't.
Walk as slow as possible. It's really okay.
She
Yeah,
can't. She'd never say it to them or loud enough for them to hear.
No.
But Allie and I die every time. Die 1,000 deaths. It is
Some people have
hilarious.
road rage. I have pedestrian rage for
And
sure.
she does. And she does. And
Yeah.
so she'll just turn to you and be like, yeah, walk anywhere, I guess. And you're just melting. Melting. And the last time that she was in Florida with our family, had a whole discussion about it, and it was hilarious. And so now it's the funniest thing ever. I adore it.
It makes them so uncomfortable. Like when people are doing things in public and they're being absurd or they're walking slow or just any level of absurdity or insanity that's going on in public, my kids immediately start trying to buffer me and like, Mom, don't say anything, as if I've ever
Please don't say anything. Please don't say anything.
as if I have ever publicly embarrassed my family by calling people out. And I have never done that, but I have done it enough under my breath that I think I've instilled fear in them that someday the lid's just going to come off and I'm going to say it out loud. Ali, do you share that as yours, or would you like to add to?
I think I'll share that because I really just can't think of anything. You're just so perfect.
See, this is why you're my favorite. Don't tell the others.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so obviously you guys and your brother have grown up in a Christian home. It's all you've ever known. Like we have been, I mean, your parents, either for better or worse, have been professional Christians for your whole life, in that we have been in ministry and on stages and things of that nature. So what do you think would be a misconception that people might have about growing up in a Christian family?
I have one.
Ali was ready. She said, pick me. I've
prepared. I would say one misconception is that and I don't want this to sound bad, but that we just love being at church all the time. I would say it's something that I enjoy, but when you're at church almost every day, it can get really tiring, and it's not something fulfilling all the time. So if I go to church on a Sunday, I feel nice and filled up after that. But a lot of times we would be, serving, which is absolutely amazing. And I love serving. But a lot of times we would go home afterwards and I would be like, oh, I am so ready to be done with the day and not go back to church for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like sitting in service and learning and being taught. It's, sometimes physical labor, crawling around with 2-year-olds on the floor for 2 hours. And then maybe you serve in both services. So you serve for 4 hours, and it can be a lot. So I totally get that. I was going to say, specifically, once I moved to Florida and wasn't surrounded, because we went to church every Sunday, every Wednesday. We also went to a Christian school. Everyone I knew was Christian or knew already that I was Christian. So they already had some sort of conceptions about me. Conceptions? Ideas? They'd made their own interpretations of everything. And so I feel like when I moved to Florida and told people, like, my mom's a pastor, my dad's a worship leader, they were like, oh, so you had no fun. And I was like,
right.
Interesting.
Right.
Oh, because I think a lot of times people, especially if you haven't grown up around it and it's a foreign concept to you, lots of people are like, oh, so you sat at home and read your Bible and only ever listened to worship music and only watched corny Christian movies and only told each other how much you love each other and also never left the house except to go to church. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
Pause.
Kind of antiquated view of things. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I was like, I actually think we had tons of fun. And I think that was a priority for us, was like experiencing things together, and not only experiencing things, but experiencing fun things, like seeing what's out there and seeing all of the things that have been put on earth for us to enjoy. We were not made to just sit at home and do nothing.
Yeah.
So I think a misconception, specifically once I moved here, was, oh, so you had no fun. And I was like, actually, quite the opposite. Quite the opposite.
But I do think, for a lot of people, I grew up much the same way you guys have grown up. And there was a time, though, when I had to figure out my faith as my own versus the thing that I was borrowing from my parents or borrowing from my grandparents or borrowing from the church or the pastor. So what has that looked like for the two of you? Like, how has your faith journey been unique to each of you? And as you've kind of, because you're both now legally adults and stepping into adulthood and making adult decisions. When did you kind of realize, okay, this isn't my family's faith, this is my faith for me?
Honestly, for me, relatively recently. Once I was out of the house and it was my decision to go to church every Sunday, my decision to get involved, my decision to volunteer, my decision to do with my time what I wanted to do solely and had no other input, I was like, oh, so I cannot just like skate by on the pastor's kid knowledge of everything. I've got to take the reins at some point and really make this a priority. And I feel like it was so easy to move down here and be distracted by all the things. And I used to work every Sunday, which was really a bummer, but I could have watched online and I chose not to. I could have gotten up early and gone to the super early service, but I chose not to, So I feel like pretty recently I've been like, oh, okay, this needs to become mine and I need to take ownership of this because I'm not getting by on everything I learned in preschool and Sunday school and all of those things. Like, Jesus loves you. Yes, so true, so true. You do have to open your Bible though, So I feel for me actually really recently because it's mine to own now and I don't have the consistent, this is what we're doing as a family, so you're coming along. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's good.
I would say for me, it's been the past year, maybe year and a half. As soon as mom kind of transitioned out of working at a church, I started to no longer feel like oh, well, mom's going to church, might as well just go with her, If she's going to be going, might as well. Like, I have nothing else to do. And now I actually do want to, like, get up and go to church and serve and be with my cutie little second graders. They're so adorable. And I was like, wait, this is actually something that I should want to do, not something that I'm only doing because mom's already taken the car, And then even then I started to realize, it was honestly in December, I was like, I'm not really doing anything to strengthen or grow my faith outside of the church building. And so I had to start, like, I made it a daily habit to get in my Bible, whether that's before bed or when I wake up in the morning, because you have to just start out when you're actually going to want to do it. And I will tell you one thing, it's not early in the morning. So I've started reading my Bible right before I go to bed. And I wanted to really focus on actually analyzing what it says instead of just, oh, let me open it up and read one chapter, and then not actually retain anything. Right. So my small group leader at school was like, you should start in Proverbs. And I was like, okay. So I've started in Proverbs, and if you open up my Bible that I keep next to my bed, it's all highlighted with stuff next to it because I was like, I need to actually learn this information because if I'm not going to be doing anything outside of church, then the only days that I'm going to be thinking about it are Wednesdays and Sundays. And that's not
and that won't
how it should work.
You. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and, for me to transition off of a church staff and all of the kind of automatic being at church things to go away, you did have a decision to make, just like Maggie had a decision to make once she moved to Florida of, okay, well, this isn't about just jumping in the car with mom anymore. So how am I going to lead myself? You had the same decision to make once I was no longer, quote unquote, being paid to be there. And I just became a congregant. And so I was only going when the thing I was involved in was happening. And you had to decide, am I still going to be serving in Kid City? Am I still going to show up early? Am I still going to lead worship? And you've decided yes to all of those things and realized it's not enough to just go on Sunday, even if you're involved in all the things and you're there for 7 or 8 hours. And so I'm so grateful to hear both of you say, I had to decide at some point that I had to go after it and be in God's word and be in church because I decided that it was the right thing to do. So
I also feel
you
like,
go
oh, I'm
ahead,
so
Boo.
sorry to cut you off. I was just going to say, I also feel like this sense of like, because I'm not in an environment anymore where it's just a thing that everyone does or a thing that everyone's already exposed to, even if they don't necessarily go to church every Sunday. Like going to a Christian school, that was the baseline for everything. And so it was kind of just understood. Now working in Florida with 200,000 other people who are from all different backgrounds and everything, it's amazing to learn from all of those people. But I also had this moment where I was like, I don't want people to hear from me or hear from someone else that I'm a Christian and be like, really?
Mm.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. Yeah.
Once I had that, I was like, ugh, I gotta like lock in, for lack of a better term,
Right.
and really get myself in the right space, because I don't want to walk around and have people be like, she's a Christian? Okay, not interested in
Yeah.
that, you know? So
Mhm.
that was,
We get anesthetized when in the Bible Belt when we go to
yep,
church, our parents work at the church, we go to a Christian school. Like it is easy to go, well, I look like everybody else, but we all know that we love Jesus, so it doesn't have to be as obvious that we do. And
right.
then to be somewhere like Disney and people hear you're a Christian, what you want in an environment like that is, I knew there was something different about her.
Oh, that makes
Yeah.
Mhm.
so much
Yeah.
sense. Like I could not figure out what the right, exactly.
It's
So
so
I don't
good.
know when that question first popped into my brain. Of course, no one had ever said that to me or I had never experienced that, but I was like, I really want to ensure that the decisions that I'm making and the words that I'm using and the things that I'm saying to people and how I'm treating the people around me really line up, so that when people hear this or when I talk about it or they hear it from somebody else, they're like, that makes sense. Yep, totally. As opposed to, really?
Yeah.
My biggest fear.
Yeah.
Truly.
Mhm.
So I think that really changed the game for me of, yeah, you guys don't know that my mom was a pastor, and so I'm just going to skate by on that, and everybody knows, so it's fine. Like, no, I got to make this my own.
Yeah. So if you would be willing, I'm wondering if you would be willing to share maybe a mistake that you have made recently and what you learned from that.
I fear I have so many.
You also don't have to, because that's an awkward thing to do, but I never like to be like, oh my gosh, we had this podcast and me and my daughters and all we talked about was how great we are and how we are ministry people and like everything is
Right.
always coming up roses, because that's not true.
Oh, far from it. Um, I would say recently I went through a pretty tough season, and I think we're going to talk about that a little more in a future episode. So be
Mm-hmm.
sure to tune in. But I had to really check my reactions to the thing that was happening, because it was really easy to be really angry and to respond in anger. And I did respond in anger to somebody involved in the situation. And because of how I responded, I have not been able to have any sort of communication with them anymore, which
Mm.
means I also haven't been able to apologize. And while I have reached out, I understand the space that they're looking for, because I responded pretty harshly and I'm not super proud of that. Um, but it also taught me like, this is why taking a pause and not reacting when your emotions are as crazy as they can be and you're at the height of this emotional period is
Mhm.
really important. And taking a step back and going to the Lord first and being like, Lord, I want to burn things down,
Right.
but I can't. So I'm
Yeah.
going to need your help on this one, is really difficult, because it doesn't necessarily give you that super warm and fuzzy feeling of like, ha, I got him back. You have to just kind of let it go. And
Yeah.
I did
So
not go
hard.
to the Lord first in that scenario. And I now really, really wish that I had, because I was hurt and I ended up hurting somebody else in the
Mm,
process. And it's not my finest moment. It's not my finest moment.
yeah, that's good.
I would say for me, I deal a lot with the like guilt of things that I've done that I can't fix.
Mm,
So like if I say something to somebody, like I can go back and apologize and just be like, hey, I'm sorry for, speaking that way to you. I was not in the right mindset or anything. But the things that like I can't fix, like when I break someone's trust, like that takes a long time to build it back.
Mm-hmm.
Or like one thing I can think of is I recently was driving my dad's car and I rear-ended somebody,
hmm.
and it did a few $1,000s worth of damage.
Right. Of course. Of course.
Every
And
parent listening has received that phone call. If they have kids
yeah,
old enough, they have received that phone call where first you're grateful that your child is alive, and then your second question is, how bad is the damage?
right. And at first, it did not look that bad. And then the quote came back and it was a lot more than that. And I was like, oh, perfect. And so then the insurance company was trying to total the car. And so I deal with like the guilt of like when I've done something wrong. I hold that very heavily. And so it was ruining my day. And then I was like, hold on. God's got this. It will all work out.
And what would the guilt really have done for you? Because you're not a
Exactly.
mechanic. You couldn't fix the car. You're not independently wealthy. You couldn't pay to repair it. And so the funny thing about guilt is rarely does it lead us somewhere helpful. Now,
Right.
if guilt is actually conviction leading to repentance, that's very different. But guilt for the sake of guilt, because the enemy likes to deal in guilt, it doesn't lead us anywhere helpful or true. So I'm glad that you were able to see the difference in it, because not only does God not hold you accountable for, well, I hope you have plans to fix an SUV, your parents don't either.
Right.
What's true is, let's be more careful. Let's pay better attention. Like there's a lesson to learn here, but condemnation is just not part of the equation. So there was a time in your life where you would not have been able to move past it. And so
Yep.
it's a mark of maturity that now you're able to process all the way through it and realize, hey, in the grand scheme of things, this is not worth this much mental and emotional energy from me. So I'm grateful for that. Okay. Gonna wrap up here in a minute, but if you could give advice to your younger self,
Oh, goodness gracious.
Oh gosh.
what is one thing, just one, because we could talk for 4.5 hours, but
And we
what
could.
is one thing you would tell your younger self? And maybe think about it like if there are mamas of daughters who are listening.
This sounds so cliche because I feel like we are told this a lot, but the drama from middle school, the drama from high school, the drama from all these people in your hometown who you see every day actually is not going to matter in 5 years. And so if it's not going to matter in 5 years, spend 5 minutes on it and then move past it. Now, easier said than done. As a overthinker, and I would say chronic overthinker and chronic worst case scenario girly, that is really hard to do. However, 3 or 4 years removed from high school at this point, none of that plays a part in my daily life anymore. None of that plays a part. Did it feel really big at the time? Yes, of course. But my favorite little analogy is like if you were looking at a calendar and something happened on the third day of the month. You put a little red tack on the third day. It looks really big when it's on the third and you're only looking at the third. But when you zoom out and you look at the whole month, that's like nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I think I was told that a lot, but I never had anybody be like, no, no, literally, that is not going to matter. Trust and believe, because when you're going through it, it feels like the end of the world. But visualizing it and putting it that way of like, no, this is minuscule and this is not going to affect your life 3 years from now
And it
is
isn't
something I
that you
wish
don't
that
have
I
relationships from high school,
no.
because you do. Yeah.
My two best friends, we met in sophomore year of high school and we talk every single day. So it's not that at all. I have somebody from high school coming to visit me in 3 days. Like, it's not that we don't have a relationship anymore. It's just that that thing that that girl said one time that someone overheard in the hallway actually didn't end the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the perspective is really good. And I think maybe if you have a visual person, showing that kind of visual learning can be really helpful sometimes, and showing that sort of perspective in real time is something that like totally changed my mindset. So that's one piece of advice I wish I could give to my younger self, because I feel like I got really wrapped up in that stuff and not as wrapped up in the things that actually mattered.
Mm.
And so I feel like the drama and the whatever took up so much space in my brain, and I could have been doing 400 other things.
Yeah. It's good.
So that's one thing I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My one piece of advice would probably be just because you're not there doesn't mean they're going to forget about you. Because, and I still struggle with this, but it's been proven time and time again that if I don't show up to something, it doesn't mean that they're going to stop inviting me to that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had another commitment, you know? But
Yeah,
I just used
are you
to...
talking about just like the FOMO of everything?
Yes. I used to focus on that so much. I was like, well, if I'm not there, though, they're going to forget about me. And then I'm no longer going to be friends with them. And we're just going to fall out and nobody's ever going to talk to me ever again. It was very catastrophic.
Of course.
But I realized that that is simply not the case. And my best friend, anytime I'm not somewhere, she'll text me and be like, we miss you so much. You know, like, it's just that extra reassurance of just, oh, they actually don't forget about me if I'm not there because I am their friend, you know?
Yeah. So good. Girls, this is going to be a fun journey. I'm excited about some conversations that we can have, and we'll get into some deep stuff on some other episodes. But I definitely just wanted people to kind of get to know you. A lot of our sweet women have heard about you ad nauseum, but I'm always excited for people to get to know you. Maybe we'll get your brother on here one day. So
that would be so fun.
A couple of rapid fires for you that are fun.
Okay.
Favorite book? Of course, you've already kind of
The Baxter family series, just all of it. It's just perfect.
So if I told you I'm not much of a reader, I know.
Just say the Bible.
But
just say the Bible.
the Bible. That is the word of life. How could you
Yes.
not? How could you
Church answer. Okay. Favorite movie?
not? Okay, Maggie in 2020 would have said Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
And that is still quite true. However, I'm going to go with Wicked Part 1 for right now.
Okay. I would say, well, I have to put Wicked in there because, you know, it's so good.
It's so good.
And we were big Wicked on Broadway people.
Yeah,
so like
absolutely.
we've been rolling.
We had a
we've been
high
rolling
bar.
for a while. Yeah.
All
right.
What is your favorite?
My favorite movie?
Oh, well, you can do book and movie. You didn't answer, so.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
both.
answer, did I? Favorite book? Ooh, that's hard. I'm like Ali. I'm a pretty voracious reader. So it's going to be very difficult for me to pick a favorite book.
That's okay. The Bible.
But
Yes.
yeah, oh, well, obviously the Bible. But favorite movie? I'm a big Sound of Music girl. That's just kind of my
That's a
That's
great
a
staple.
good one.
I do
Yeah,
love the
that's a
Sound
great
of
movie.
Music. I do just want to say, girls, you two are a gift to me. You are a treasure. This is going to be fun. I'm really thankful that you're willing to do this. And I'm excited about the conversations about life and faith and the way that God is making everything beautiful that we'll get to have. So all of you listening and watching, I hope you have enjoyed just getting to know my girls a little bit more. And I think they will make great co-hosts whenever they appear. And we are grateful for you. We're grateful that you engage with this podcast and with our funny little life that we lead. And we hope that you are on the lookout for the way that God is making everything beautiful all around you, including you. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks for joining us for Everything Made Beautiful. We are so grateful for your willingness to tune in. Be sure to follow, rate, and download the podcast and check out the show notes for additional links and resources from today's episode. You can follow Everything Made Beautiful podcast on Instagram and Facebook and can subscribe to Shannon's writing on Substack. This information and more is available at shannonsuzannescott.com. See you next time.